Come to beautiful Costa Rica with us on this podcast as we explore the wonderful things this country has to offer and improve your listening skills. Welcome to
Aprender Inglés con Reza y Craig.
Hello and welcome to the podcast, especially if you're a new listener. My name's Craig.
And my name's Reza.
And together with nearly 50 years of teaching English between us, we're going to help you grow your grammar, vocalize your vocabulary, and perfect your pronunciation, taking all aspects of your English up to the next level. How are you, Reza?
I'm feeling fine, Craig. I'm enjoying this lovely, crisp, sunny winter's day. And you?
The same, although I think it's time I took my thick winter quilt from the bed because I was sweating a bit last night. It's getting a little bit hot. We're in March nearly, and I think it's time to get the spring clothes and the spring bedding out of the cupboard.
Spring is in the air, as they say.
Spring is in the air. What's first this week, Reza?
Well, first we've got a voice message, and it's all the way from Brazil. It's from Lucas, who's studying for the B2 Cambridge exam, and he's listening to all of the podcasts. He's currently on episode 30, so he's still got quite a few to go because this is 304.
Let's listen to Lucas.
Hi guys, how you doing? My name is Lucas. I'm from Brazil, and recently I found your podcast, and I'm really happy with this because I'm learning a lot with your lessons. It's really fun learn with you. It's really, really nice. And in some months, I will do the FCE test here in Brazil in July. And I hope to send you good news about this. And keep calm. I will send more messages, more audios, because I'm just on episode 30. But in a few weeks, I will reach you on episode 300, I hope. So keep working because we love your work.
Well, thank you very much, Lucas, for your lovely message. It's really good to hear from you all the way from Brazil. And your message was very clear. We understood everything you said, so well done. And good luck for the first certificate exam. Did you notice anything that Lucas could improve on before he takes the exam, according to his message?
Well, it was very clear. There was nothing that I didn't understand. However, I did notice a couple of pronunciation aspects to do with plurals, common mistakes, tricky things. I think the plural of month, Lucas, you added an E sound. You said like months. But it's not. It's a difficult sound. It's months. You've just got to put the s after the f, which isn't easy. Months.
To do it correctly, you need to put your tongue between your teeth and say month, TH, and then just the S on the end, months.
And another related word, message. You needed to say the plural, messages, but you didn't pronounce the es at the end, messages. This happens a lot because it's tricky. Because in English we're so often used to just adding s, like months, that sometimes for foreign speakers they forget that you do have to add a vowel sound to make a plural sometimes, like message, messages, baggage, baggages, language, languages. You have to add a vowel sound, Lucas.
And one or two small grammar points, Lucas. You said, I think it's really fun learn with you. After an adjective like fun, you can use an infinitive, but you must use the to. So it's really fun to learn with you. Or you can use the gerund. It's really fun learning with you. And the second thing I noticed, you said, say you good news. No, it's tell you good news. You say something to someone, but you tell someone something. So I want to tell you some good news. And good luck with the first certificate exam, Lucas. If you're interested in a course of preparation On the Mansion Inglés website, there is a first certificate course. You can go and look at the notes for this episode, the show notes at inglespodcast.com 304. There's a link we've put there to go and look at the course. That's a course that's for sale. And Reza, if Lucas wanted to practice with another teacher, for example, to prepare for the speaking test or to practice some writing technique or anything on a one-to-one basis, what would you recommend?
Well, if you need your own teacher, then we would suggest italki online. What is italki? Well, italki is a website that will help you get in touch with the teacher who's right for you. You have a look at their website. You see that there are many different teachers who have different qualifications, different experience, different languages, and very importantly, offer different timetables so that the student decides when they're going to have the class. All you need is an internet connection and something like Skype or another similar video messaging service. You choose your teacher and get started. And as a special incentive to listeners of the podcast, if you follow the link in the show notes and you register and pay for your first class with italki, they will give you $10 free credit to help pay for your first class. So why not give it a go? Have a look at italki and hopefully you'll get the teacher just right for you online.
Especially if, like Lucas, you're looking for a more organized course of study to prepare for an exam, for example. So thank you very much, italki. You're wonderful. Thanks a lot for sponsoring Aprender Inglés con Reza y Craig. Well, today we're speaking about Costa Rica, and that's because we received an email from Josue. I apologize if I haven't pronounced your name correctly, Josue, from Costa Rica. And he says in his email, I write you from Costa Rica. Well, better to say I'm writing. If you're giving a reason for why you're writing, use the present continuous. I'm writing to you from Costa Rica because I really enjoy your podcast and I want to thank you guys for helping me improve my English skills. You're very welcome, Josue. I just became a Patreon member, well, thank you, and I want you to speak about my country, Costa Rica. I think that will be a wonderful topic for a new podcast. We agree because you've got a soft spot for, well, Costa Rica. Let's talk about Costa Rica. Reza, you've got a soft spot for Costa Rica, haven't you? If you've got a soft spot for something, that means you really like it. You've got a lot of empathy and a lot of, in Spanish, you might say cariño for the particular thing or place or person. So you've got a soft spot for Costa Rica, haven't you?
I do. It's a country that I've never visited, but I've always wanted to visit. I really must get round to it. To get round to something means that instead of just talking or thinking about something for a long time, actually do it. So one of these days I must get round to it because it's always fascinated me. And in a minute, we're going to tell you some facts about Costa Rica and you'll see why it fascinates me and Craig. There's a lot to be fascinated by.
Yeah, I've heard some wonderful things about Costa Rica. My partner has traveled there on holiday. She's been there, but I haven't seen it. And it's one place that I definitely want to go to. But where is it?
So, Costa Rica, the rich coast. But don't worry, we don't translate it. We call it Costa Rica in English. Where is this Costa Rica? Well, as you probably know, it's in Central America. And to be more exact, it has a border with Nicaragua to the north. It's got the Caribbean Sea to the northeast. And it's got Panama to the southeast. It's also got the Pacific Ocean to the southwest. So it's got water on both sides. And the population is about 5 million. And the capital is San Jose.
I'm sure you could tell us a few things about the flag. And I'm sure it's well researched, Reza. What can you tell us?
Well, I knew what the flag looked like before this episode, but of course I did my internet research to get the full explanation of it. And I've discovered that it wasn't always as it is today, like many flags. Originally, as part of what they called the United Provinces of Central America, this was a group of countries that gained independence from Mexico. So they were colonized by Mexico. And in 1823, they got their independence, and all those countries adopted like a federal flag for several countries, which was a blue, white, blue striped flag. Stripe is raya. So a blue stripe, a white stripe, and a blue stripe. So various countries, including Costa Rica, used that. But the flags changed over the years, as I said, and the biggest change was in 1848 when a larger red stripe was added in the center.
Do we know why they added the red stripe?
Yes, it was partly as a reference to French revolutionary ideals. So then, being blue, white, and red, it had the same colors as the French flag. And it was actually the wife of the then president who designed it. Also, the coat of arms, the emblem, the coat of arms in the middle of the flag, that's also changed over time. The latest version, which I think comes from the 1960s, that was the last change, that depicts volcanoes on land. And the land is between two seas. We mentioned earlier the Caribbean Sea on one side and the Pacific Ocean on the other. And there's a ship in each of the two seas. And there are 7 stars representing the 7 provinces of the Republic.
I'm guessing that the volcanoes on the flag also represent it being in the Ring of Fire, because we've had that before. There was a volcano on another flag. Do you remember which one?
I think it was Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Was it?
I can't remember.
Nicaragua, who are the neighbors to the north of Costa Rica.
It makes a lot of sense in that area to have the volcanoes because of the problems with volcanic eruptions. So let's look at some interesting facts about Costa Rica. As Reza mentioned before, it's a country with a small population, only 5 million, but it has 5% of the world's biodiversity, which is really interesting because it's a very, very small country. It's only about 50,000 square kilometers, which, to give you some idea, Spain is just over 500,000 square kilometers, and Russia, the biggest country, is 17 million square kilometers. So Costa Rica's really, really small. It's 0.03% of the world's land, which makes it 129th in the world's land mass.
But you said it has 5% of the world's biodiversity.
Yeah, which, if you think about its size, that is really, really high. So
Amazing.
It's a very, very biodiverse country. And it's very often compared in size to the state in the US, West Virginia, more or less the same land mass as West Virginia. Can you tell us anything about the variety of this biodiversity, birds and other mammals and animals?
Well, 5% of the whole world biodiversity, that's immense. So we can only give you a few examples of the many. For example, there are 50 species of hummingbirds. So you call that colibri in Spanish, although I think in Mexican Spanish they have another word which is chuparrosa.
Yeah, I really like that, chuparrosa,
nice
because
word,
it eats the roses,
Yeah.
eats the flowers. Yeah.
Rose eater. In English we call it a hummingbird because it looks like a bird and it hums.
I think they beat their wings really, really quickly to hover above the flower when they're drinking the nectar, the sweet stuff in the flower. So they're humming, that's the noise they're making with their wings as they're in front of the flower. Hummingbird.
Well, imagine Britain doesn't have a single species of hummingbird. Costa Rica has 50 different species. It also has 750,000 species of insects. That's incredible. And more than 1,400 varieties of orchids.
Ah, my favourite flower, the orchid. Yeah, because it's very humid and it has perfect conditions for orchids in the forests. It's near the equator, which means the sun rises and sets round about the same time every day. In fact, you can see the sunrise on one side of Costa Rica and then just drive 7 hours to the other side and see the sunset from the other beach on the other side of the country, which is amazing, isn't it?
I would love to do that. There can't be many countries in the world where you can do that.
Yeah. You can actually set your watch by the sunrise and the sunset every day. That expression, to set your watch by something, means it happens at the same time. It's very predictable. For example, I have a neighbor in my building, Vicente, and he walks his dog at the same 3 times every day. You can set your watch by when he takes his dog for a walk. It's 7:30 in the morning, 9 p.m. in the evening. So you can set your watch by him walking his dog.
Craig mentioned that his neighbour's called Vicente. For me, that's as good as saying he's a Valencian. If his name's Vicente, he's probably Valencian. Craig, what do Costa Ricans call each other?
Well, this was interesting to me. I did not know that they call themselves ticos and ticas. So I'm guessing that the men are ticos and the women are ticas, and not Costa Ricans, which is what we would call them.
Now, as you probably do know already, all of you, Costa Rica has a lot of tourism, hardly surprising with all the natural beauty and biodiversity. In fact, it's its biggest industry. More than 25% of Costa Rica's land is dedicated to national parks and wildlife reserves, which are promoted by tourism. There are more than 100 different protected areas to visit. For such a small area of land, that's just incredible.
That's another reason why I want to go. There's so much nature and so much beauty to see there. Have you ever eaten gallo pinto?
No, I haven't.
Me neither.
What is it?
Well, it's a very typical dish from Costa Rica. I'm sure that Joshua and other ticos and ticas know about gallo pinto. It's rice and beans with onions, peppers, and a sauce, which I think is called salsa inglesa. I read on the internet that it's a savory sauce, which means it's not sweet, it's salty, and very tangy. That word tangy, Tangy. How would you describe a tangy taste? It's a lively taste, isn't it? Something that kind of attacks your tongue a little.
You immediately notice it. It's not a boring taste, and it'll probably be quite acidic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, acidic and, as you say, full of flavor. Yeah.
So this gallo pinto, apparently some areas in Costa Rica cook it also with coconut milk and chili peppers. So I think it depends which part of Costa Rica you have it in. There are different varieties of gallo pinto.
Now, we can't mention Costa Rica without mentioning its wild sloths, as well as the sloths in captivity as well. Captivity means not wild. It's kind of a symbol of Costa Rica.
And it's a symbol of Reza for me, because you've mentioned sloths many times. And in fact, I think you said once that if you wanted to come back in this world after you die as an animal, you'd come back as a sloth.
I think I would. You'll see why in a minute. Because I'm going to tell you a few interesting facts about sloth. And you can try and guess which things I have in common, which characteristics I have in common with sloths. Sloths, I beg your pardon.
You don't look like one, because I was looking at some pictures of them yesterday, and you don't look like a sloth.
No, I don't have that kind of stripe across the face that they often do. And also, sadly, I don't have a permanent smile. I wish I did. Sloths seem to be smiling permanently. Have you noticed that?
Is that one reason you like them?
Yeah, they've always got a smile on their face. Well, let me tell you a little bit about them, and you'll see why they're smiling all the time. Well, first thing is, although they're abundant, relatively speaking, in Costa Rica, they do exist in plenty of other Latin American countries as well. In Brazil, Lucas probably knows there are sloths. First thing is, in Costa Rica, they got 2 types. They've got the two-toed sloth. That's not easy to say, by the way. The two-toed sloth.
The two-toed sloth.
Two-toed sloth. And the three-toed sloth. So...
Is that one of the things you might have in common? Just 2 toes?
Well, how many toes have I got? Or maybe I've got 3. 2 or 3. In fact, those toes, they aren't really toes. They're more like claws. So a claw is like a long, sharp nail, really.
So cats have claws, don't
Yep.
they? When they put out their claws, they can scratch you.
Scratch you, they could make you bleed. And I guess a sloth probably could as well, but don't worry, it won't. They're not very aggressive. So its claws are called toes. So the two-toed or the three-toed sloth. And boy, are those toes important, because they use those toes to hang upside down. That means their head is below their feet, upside down from trees.
So they're hanging on a branch of a tree with their claws, by their claws.
Yep. Only 2 or 3 of them. So imagine how strong they are. So if something happens to a sloth's toes, it's buggered. Está, vamos, tiene problemas. It's buggered. It's got a big problem if anything happens to its toes. Because they do pretty much anything while they're hanging from a tree, from those claws. That includes eat, sleep, have sex, fight each other about who's going to have sex with the female lady sloth, give birth, and die hanging from a tree. So it's pretty important in their life, as you can see. Yes, they do come down from the tree from time to time. For example, to have a poo. What's a poo, Craig?
That's when you need to defecate. So if you're going to the toilet, it's not number 1, it's number 2.
Yes, exactly.
Number 2 is the poo.
Yeah. They defecate only about once a week. You see, this is why they're called sloths. Sloth means lazy.
Once a week. Wow.
Once a week. That's how often they bother to defecate.
That would save on toilet paper, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So they're very solitary creatures. They spend a lot of time on their own. No surprise, because they sleep between 10 and 20 hours a day. 20 hours a day? There only are 24 hours in a day. 10 and 20 hours a day. In fact, they're so solitary, they don't really bother much, even with other sloths, except to mate.
What does to mate mean?
To mate is when animals find their mate. It can be a noun as well. In other words, their partner, the one they reproduce with. So the one they engage in sex with. And in the case of humans, that they might get married or something like that afterwards. Sloths don't get married. You won't be surprised to hear. As I said, they're very solitary creatures.
Do you know if they tend to stay with the same mate, the same partner, or are they monogamous?
As far as I know, they don't bother even to spend much time with the partner. They mate, spend a bit of time together, and then they
Go to sleep.
cordially say goodbye and go back to sleep. Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. And the female will go off and have the young somewhere. So, yeah, they're maybe not the greatest fathers of all time, nor are they the greatest of explorers, I must say. Some sloths are born and die in the same tree, and they never inhabit another one. That's how unadventurous they have. They got lots of trees to choose from in Costa Rica. They're surrounded by trees, but they're so slothful. That means inactive, lazy. That's why we call them sloths in English. A sloth is a lazy person that they don't even bother to find out about trees. In fact, there is a type of algae, yeah, that's the plural of algae, which can grow on the fur, on the hairy skin of a sloth because they move so little. Algae can only grow where something is still. It doesn't move for a long time.
Yeah, usually stones and trees.
Or water in a pond or something. It can grow on a sloth's back because it just doesn't move for so long. It's the only mammal in the world that an algae can grow on while it's still alive. And if you think they eat slowly, and believe me, if you're going to meet a sloth for dinner, allow several hours, yeah? If you think they eat slowly, get this. They can take up to a month to digest, digerir, hacer la digestión, to digest one single meal. A month to digest a single meal. That is slow.
What do they eat?
They eat mostly leaves.
Okay.
However, I can't remember which one, the two-toed or the three-toed sloth. One of them was herbivorous and ate only leaves and plants, but the other one was omnivorous and does eat some insects and lizards.
Oh, okay.
So depending on whether it's the two-toed or the three-toed sloth.
So which of those attributes, which of those particular sloth talents do you think apply to Reza?
Do you think I eat lizards?
No, and I don't think you hang from trees. I mean, you are quite sociable, so that's not really sloth-like. You like being with people, so no. And you like to travel. I don't think you would want to stay in the same tree all your life. You'd like to go to the next tree, for example, and see what's there.
I'm sorry if anybody's eating or anything, like that at the moment, but do you think I defecate more than once a week?
I hope so. I certainly hope so.
Yes, I do. Yes, don't worry. I'd probably be dead if I didn't.
Do you fight other people about who's going to have sex with your lady?
Well, not physically. I do get upset if anybody tries to intervene. I must say it does bother me.
And then you go to sleep for 20 hours.
Yeah.
You said that sloths eat lizards. There's a lizard in Costa Rica called the Jesus Christ lizard. And I don't know if you've seen this on nature programs. It's a very funny, colourful looking lizard, quite small, with very, very big feet. And it can actually run on water.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing to see. It's very, very light, so it doesn't weigh very much. And it can run at a speed of 5 feet per second. Not only because it runs very quickly and it's very light, but also it creates like these air pockets under its feet, and they help it to just run on the water. And it made me laugh so much because if you're very surprised by something in English, you might hear somebody say, Jesus Christ, if something shocks you and something surprises you. And I think if I saw a lizard running on water, I would say, Jesus Christ, look at that lizard. And it's called the Jesus Christ lizard.
Yeah.
So I thought that was amusing.
Oh, wow.
Do sloths eat pineapples?
Do you know what? I'm not sure if they do.
There's a hole in your sloth knowledge.
Yeah, I must check that out. I think they probably do, but it's not their preferred food.
Well, let's ask the listeners. Anyone from Costa Rica listening who knows if sloths eat pineapples? Reza would like to know.
I tell you what, I definitely eat pineapples.
That's your favourite fruit,
It's
isn't
my
it?
favorite fruit. Another reason to go to Costa Rica, because you've all probably eaten a pineapple from Costa Rica before in your life, but did you know that it's the world's biggest producer by far? That means it's way ahead of the competition.
Por mucho.
Or mucho, yeah. In 2019, for example, here's a statistic. It produced just under 3.5 million metric tons.
That sounds a lot of pineapples.
Well, to give you an idea how much that is more than double what China produced. And it's quite easy to grow pineapples in China. Well, Costa Rica produces double what China produces. So that's a heck of a lot of pineapples per square kilometer in Costa Rica.
It definitely is. And I know you really enjoy pineapples, and we do try to get you a pineapple when you come around here for lunch after we finish podcasting. So here's a question for you. Do you, in your opinion, think that Costa Rica produce the best tasting pineapples?
Yes, without any doubt, I do.
The sweetest?
Yep. The best I've ever had have always been Costa Rican. I'm not saying that all Costa Rican pineapples are the top quality, but the best ones I've ever had have been Costa Rican. Yep.
But there's another reason to go to visit Costa Rica. Before we leave you, I've got one question for you. And I did not put the answer here, Reza, so you may or you may not know this. I'm going to tell you a list of countries. I'm going to say a list of countries. What do they have in common? Costa Rica, Iceland, Monaco, Panama, Samoa, Mauritius, and Andorra. There are more that I could add to that list, but those are the more well-known places. Do you know what they have in common?
I guessed, but strangely, the only one which I knew for sure before checking was Costa Rica. I knew about Costa Rica. I didn't know about the others, but I knew that Costa Rica has no army.
That's right. You've got it. The no standing armies. So those countries have police forces, they have some kind of civil guard, but they do not have an official standing army to defend their land. Yeah.
I think there's somewhere else in Europe. Is it Switzerland? Are they another place that doesn't have an army?
I think Switzerland have an army.
No.
It might be
Was it a part-time one or something? It might be. There's somewhere else that has an army, but it's part-time. So there's only an army at the weekend. So if they ever get invaded during the week in some country, I can't remember where it is, that's going to be a problem.
Look for a big sign on the border saying gone to lunch or something.
No invasions, Monday to Friday, please.
If you want to invade, come back at the weekend. And now it's your turn to practice your English. Please let us know what you would like us to talk about in future episodes. Send us a message, tell us your name, and just say hi, where you're from, and what you would like us to speak about. If you would like to send a voice message, go to speakpipe.com. That's speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast. You can leave your voice message there. You only have 90 seconds to speak, though. Reza, where can they send their emails?
You could write to us if you like. That's craig@inglespodcast.com or belfastreza@gmail.com.
And as we mentioned to Lucas earlier on, for the first certificate course, if you are interested in paid courses, go to store.mansioningles.net, and there you will see a list of courses on the Mansion Ingles website.
As ever, we'd like to thank all of you who are helping to sponsor us by supporting us through Patreon. It was, in fact, Josue who said in his message that he had just joined Patreon. Thanks very much to him. And we'd love to thank everybody by name, but we haven't got time. You can see the full list of Patreon sponsors if you go to Patreon, patreon.com/English podcast. But we're just going to thank our most recent sponsors who recently joined us, apart from Josue. Thanks to Roberto, Rossi, Mercedes Fernandez, Daniel Alejandro, Alessod Pave, Blas Lopez, Marisa, Manuel Martinez, and Camilo Meza. Thanks to you and all our sponsors.
Yeah, thanks. We really appreciate your support. If you would like to join our wonderful Patreon supporters for as little as $1 per month, although you're welcome to give us more, you can get instant access to recent transcriptions. And again, it's Patreon, patreon.com/Ingles podcast. We'll see you over there. What's next week, Reza?
Next week's episode is Must and Have To, Part 2. The more advanced forms.
Until then, thank you for listening this week. It's goodbye from Reza.
And goodbye from Craig.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later. Music also by Stefan Kartenberg. Dream on Me. Licensed under Creative Commons from ccmixter.org.